Good morning. Welcome in. Welcome aboard the lifeboat, folks. This is Captain Calhoun. Welcome aboard. Good morning. Grand Rising, as JCC says. Good morning. Cindy G, James Collins. How you doing? Lester Crochet, Kathy Ann, thanks for joining me this morning. Today I didn't have this grand idea, but today we're going to enact a grand idea I had. We're going to start a relapse prevention series. In my research, I've discovered multiple methods that are discussed in literature, some more clinical than others, and I think we're going to break some of them down. Today, we're going to do the Gorski synapse model. Gorski synapse model. We're going to talk about it. It's quite clinical, so I'm going to try and make it not so scientific because it's hard to understand the words that they use. And I mean, I'm pretty smart, and it's hard to understand. So I'm gonna just break it down, and then we're going to make a relapse prevention plan with this method at the end of the show. So I hope you're ready for some real recovery today. That's what we're about to get into. Arabian Bard, hello. Badger Life. I am not from Portland. No. But I hear it's nice. Nice to meet you, Badger. Miss Sunrise Dawn, Kevin Hawthorne, Jeremy. Sharona, good morning. Heck yeah, guys. I feeling quite motivated after my trip. So the Gorski synapse. I'm going to type this out just in case you want to do your own research. But again, quite clinical stuff. In fact, there's a website called synapse.com. And I don't know if it's their official, like the official website of the guy that made its name is Gorski. But on the website, they certainly seem to be trying to sell me training as like a therapist or something. So that's not what we're looking for, right? But regardless, this is a widely followed, respected, accredited method model. The Gorski synapse relapse prevention model, developed by Terence T. Gorski, is widely respected framework for understanding and addressing relapse in individuals recovering from substance use disorders. I just poured this coffee, and I'm very, very much need it. The Gorski synapse model is particularly notable for its integration of cognitive behavioral and biopsychosocial. That's 3 words, folks, but they decided to make it one. I don't know why. I assume that has to do with the body, the mind, and being social, but I digress. Approaches to recovery and relapse prevention. So I guess in order to understand that, we really need to break down those stupid words they decided to put in there. Below is a detailed explanation. Okay. I am going to look that word up, though, because it's ridiculous. Just for all of us, biopsychosocial. Please tell me it's not made up. The biopsychosocial model is a way of understanding and treating health and illness by considering the biological, psychological, and social factors. Well, I guess I understand that word perfectly, don't I? Some people's children, you know? Roger Grodlin, what's going on? First Saturday of the year, let's go. Yeah, it's a great day today. I tell you what, the sun is shining. I can't wait to go out there and frolic just a bit, you know? Just enough. So we're going to say that stupid word again. Key components of the Gorski synapse model. So the first component, of course, is the biopsychosocial approach. Let's say that 5 times fast, huh? Biopsychosocial. It sounds like a Slipknot song. The model views addiction as a chronic disease influenced by biological, go figure, psychological, and social factors. It emphasizes the importance of addressing all these areas to achieve long-term recovery. So what it's saying is this model is viewing addiction as a disease. That's a W. That's a win, right? We're addressing multiple factors, right? Biological, that's my body. Psychological, that's my head. Social, that's how I interact with others, right? And I think that it seems to me, and I don't know this to be fact, but I certainly seem to be getting the impression that this was, when this model came about, these things weren't normal, right? It wasn't normal to address it biologically, psychologically, and socially. It probably also wasn't normal to consider addiction a disease. And honestly, it pretty much today isn't normal. I mean, we understand that it is, right? But I think that's a new understanding. that we're coming to, right? So that's good. That's good. That points that leads me to believe that there's merit to this, right? Especially since it's one of the two most widely discussed methods in literature today. Yeah, I imagine that's because of the multiple factors that they're attacking, as well as considering it a disease, right? Because that's a W. Biological factors. So genetic predispositions are my is my family does my family have a history of addiction, right? Neurological changes due to substance use, right? Did I hurt myself? Did I cause my brain to function differently from using substances? The short answer for me is yes. And hopefully there's some folks out there. The answer is no, because I have to say there was a time when the amount of drug use that I had engaged in had not changed my brain, and that time is long past. Again, it's not the end of the world though. I seem to be doing all right. Psychological factors, thoughts, emotions, coping mechanisms. I think it's interesting that coping mechanisms is put into the mind part. I think that goes to show that says a lot about the power of the mind, and it says a lot about like coping being a function of the mind, right? If we can conquer our own mind, if we can be in control, be in this present moment, our ability to cope, our ability to roll with the punches, to adapt is what's the word I'm looking for? Much larger. There's a better word there, but whatever. We're moving on. Kim, what's going on? Good to see you. Good to see you. How are you in this new year? What are we? 4 days in? Already amazing. Crystal Phoenix Rising. Hello, hello. Thank you for the love and the sub. I appreciate that. All right, let me get my switching gears isn't my strongest suit here. Social factors. Family dynamics, I think that's a big one. We all have families, and some of us choose different family, right? I think the family dynamic is key here. It may or may not play a huge role, right, in your recovery slash addiction. Social factors, family dynamics, peer influence, that's our friends, environmental triggers, right? That's things that trigger us. As we go through this, we're going to go through triggers. We're going to identify our own triggers. When we make a relapse prevention plan at the end of this episode, I'm going to pull up my Paint application, put it on the screen, and I'm going to write out my own plan. And I haven't done it yet. I'm going to do it live with you guys, but I figure I can do it on the fly because I've made relapse prevention plans before and I'm pretty self-aware. So we'll get to triggers here in a bit. Developmental model of recovery. Apparently, the abbreviation for that is DMR. I thought that was designated marksman rifle, but I guess it's developmental model of recovery. Victoria, hello, hello. When I think back on my severe addiction, says Victoria, I had all NPD qualifications. Interesting. You know what I'm doing now is looking up NPD. Oh, interesting. Narcissistic personality disorder. Interesting. Would you consider yourself having NPD, or do you think that that's some strange overlap with severe addiction? Very thought provoking. Jemiah COVID land, what's going on? Been cutting subdose for months. Finally, on second day try, tippy canoe. Dude, I know that what you're doing is not the most comfortable thing, but what you're doing is amazing. Congratulations. Good job. Keep up the good work. I know it's not easy. If the boat can help you in any way, please let us know. James Collins says, personally, I'm not easily triggered to use my old substance of choice. I think I am perhaps a lucky one. And you know, James, that makes me think might be unique in this. I don't think that I am, though. I feel like triggers for me aren't necessarily triggering me to go back to my substance, but triggering me to like freak out, right? Triggering me to feel powerless, triggering me to feel frustrated or stressed. And those mindsets, those emotions in me, if they're not regulated, handled, not controlled, but dealt with, I can end up closer and closer to actually making the decision to relapse, right? Because that was I'm gonna slow my words down. My old coping method. And really, I don't think that I will have an external stimulus happen and then feel like I need to use now. Maybe that is that way for some people, but when I'm triggered, it's more of a like pulling my hair out. It's more of a I'm losing my mind, right? And then the simple, easy solution is let's have a beer, right? The simple solution is like, let's cut that, just turn that volume down a lot. Um, and again, I don't know if that's just me, but I feel like triggers for me are just stimulus that rub me the wrong way, very, very effectively. Feeling powerless is a huge trigger, says love it. I agree. And maybe we should do a show on triggers, We probably should. Probably will. All right, let's get back into it. Crack right into it. um, Recovery is seen as a progressive process with distinct stages, as according to the Gorski synapse method. Transition stage. I think this is the meat and potatoes here, folks. Realizing the need for change, right? We're not going to change anything. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? If we didn't realize there's a problem, we're not going to fix it. So realizing you need to change is a big, big step. First step, in fact. Stabilization stage. Managing withdrawal symptoms and early emotional instability. I have to say, my emotional instability was vast in the early days. In fact, I still don't feel 100% emotionally stable, but I definitely have the ability to adapt and roll with the punches now. In the beginning, the smallest things would destroy me. I was calling my dad all the time, just over nothing, just losing my mind. And he, the angel that he is, took my call and just talked me down every single time. What a guy. What a guy. Love you, Dad. Early recovery stage. Learning new coping skills, building a sober lifestyle. So, so, so. Early recovery stage. Learning new coping skills, building a sober lifestyle. So we know none of us got sober to be lame, right? None of us got sober to stop having fun, right? In fact, I feel like personally for me, it took me a long time to make the decision to get sober because I thought the fun was going to end. And there was a lot of hard work that needed to be done. There's still a lot of hard work that needs doing. But building a life for yourself is really why we're doing this thing, right? To live a better life, to be happier, to go farther, to achieve dreams, right? Whatever it is, whatever your reasons are, I'm sure that it's rooted in being a little better, right? Doing a little better, living a little better. So if we're not, this is the most important bit, right? We need to engage in novel activities. We need to go out and build a lifestyle, right? One that can be maintained sober if that's really what we want to do, right? And the way that we do that is one of the ways is through learning new coping skills. And we talk about coping skills on here a lot. So I'm not going to do a whole lot of that right now. When we build the relapse prevention plan here in just a bit, I'm sure that we'll revisit, right? Because we're going to have to. So we'll come back to that. Late recovery stage. Wait, I skipped middle. Middle recovery stage. Repairing relationships and personal growth. I found that a lot of my baggage was how I felt about the way that I treated people in my addiction, right? I feel like even today in sobriety, I'll have a subpar interaction with a complete stranger, and that memory of that interaction will live rent free in my head for days. For example, I have this really bad habit. I'll get back from a trip and be really hungry. There'll be no food in the fridge. So I'll go to the store and buy some food. And for some reason, 2 for 2 now, when I come back from my trips, I have an absolute meltdown on a complete stranger in the grocery store. It's happened twice now. And I'm surprised I didn't see this coming, dude. But I have to, I really need to be nice to folks and I don't know, is this triggered? I don't know if it's when I'm triggered or not, but when I don't have what I need, right? I didn't get enough sleep today. I've been on a plane all day, right? I don't have any food in the fridge. I'm very hungry. When those two things are factors in my life, I need to be very careful because I'm not as equipped to handle things, right? In fact, that could probably be a part of my coping skills is realizing that when I'm without, I probably need to take it a little slow. Robin Miners, hello, hello. How you doing? Love me some Diane word for sure. Jemiah says, knowing my mind was ready has been key. Spent half the summer getting my mind ready for the cleanup. I tell you what, yeah, that mental preparation is definitely key. A lot of what we're going to be doing in recovery for success is going to be centered in your mind, like we were saying earlier. Oof, wow. We were saying earlier about the coping skills being in your head. I think a lot of recovery and addiction is a mental battle, is a mental game. And we've spent a lot of time weakening our mental by putting drugs in us. So we've got this though. Late stage recovery. Wait, hold on. Did I not finish middle stage? Repairing relationships, personal growth. Yes, 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 yes. All of that story about the grocery store to say that those kinds of things were the meat and potatoes of my baggage, right? So we want to repair relationships, and also we want to not sour new relationships, right? Like even in recovery, we can be a dick, right? So not being a jerk is going to help you not have more things to amend, right? But also repairing the relationships that you damaged in recovery is going to be key here, right? One great example that I have is the relationship I have with my family. I did not have a good relationship with my family. They love me, right? And they, got to watch me do all kinds of crazy things and support me and lament the loss of all kinds of stuff in my life. But the relationship I have with them now is nothing like that. The relationship I have with them now is just love and support, and it's wonderful. And that could not have been possible at all without some actions that I took, right? Without me making some decisions, without me saying some words, without me living a different life. It would never have been. Okay, deep seated issues, late stage recovery. Deep seated issue. We want to resolve deep seated issues such as trauma, which is, I mean, for me, my social interactions become deep seated trauma, but also I have a lot of stuff from my childhood that I think is deep seated trauma. And um, that kind of stuff is the hardest to work through. Sometimes I'll sit down, maybe in a meditative state, but just kind of like sitting comfortably and just pensive and kind of have a conversation with younger Michael, right? In my imagination, right? Maybe he doesn't exist. Maybe he does, right? Maybe he's just past me, or maybe there's, some ethereal version of younger Mike that's still haunting me, right? And that's my trauma. I don't know, right? I don't have the sixth sense, but sometimes I'll sit down and talk with myself, my younger self, and, kind of ask him questions like, hey, you doing all right? What about this, that, and the other? I'll ask about particular situations, and I think the key to resolving trauma, if you really break it down to bare bones, is accepting what has happened and moving forward, right? Like accepting, like this is what it is, and now I'm moving on my path, right? Um, it's holding on and not being able to process what I've done that causes that trauma to fester and stay, right? If I can just get to the part of the thought process where I say, I did that. That sucks. Not my shiniest moment, and in fact, moving forward, I'm going to do everything I can to, live differently, to make this decision differently, properly in the future, right? If we can get to that part of the thought process, that trauma, that thought has a lot less power. It becomes a lot more disarmed. And having that thought once may not be enough. There are some traumas from my past that still come up to this day over and over. And I will use that method, right? I'll accept it and I'll look forward. And it does help in the moment, but sometimes they rear their ugly head time and time again. And there's nothing to do but continue to talk to ourselves, right? Continue to tell ourselves, hey, that's not who I am anymore, right? We're doing things differently now. This doesn't define me, right? Process that emotion, that trauma. Crystal Phoenix Rising says, lol, we actually did a podcast on long-term effective trauma, including addiction. That seems cool. I'll have to check that out. I am into it. We love you, Blessed. We love you very much. James says, Spanx, I often have complete strangers come up to me in grocery stores and tell me their life story, all of their trauma and chaos. I believe it's because they see the light uh, see the light in me and know it's okay. I 100% believe in this. There are things in this world that are real that we can't see, touch, feel, taste, hear, smell. I feel like I said one of those senses twice because there's not six senses. But anyways, there is a sixth sense, right? That's what I'm saying. I feel like there's things that are real that we can't necessarily quantify, right? And this is a great example of that manifesting, in my opinion. Um, I don't have a good example of this for me, but I feel like there is definitely something like this manifesting in my life, but it's not quite like this, right? I think that's way cool, James. How do you feel about this? Is this a role that you happily step into? Is this something that you begrudgingly had to come to the table on and accept that, maybe this might be my purpose kind of thing? What do you think? Because I think that's way cool. I think that's way cool. James Collins says, perhaps the person you spoke to was an earth angel. This very well may be the case, but definitely above my pay grade, right? I don't care what it is, because it's very helpful. And whatever it is, it loves me, That's all that matters to me, man. The love says everything. Love can't like coexist with the opposite of love. Love devours darkness. And that might be the wrong imagery there, right? That's pretty violent, but um, if they've got love in them and it's the predominant emotion I'm feeling, I'm very, very comfortable with this said person. Yeah, Cindy, will you post your or pardon me, Crystal Phoenix, will you post your a link to your channel if you don't mind, or if you want to? You're super duper welcome to. I'm sure there's a bunch of folks here that would love to check you out. And it sounds like you're one of us. One of us. Cindy G says, "Love brightens the darkness, all darkness." I agree. I definitely feel like I really dig the devour imagery, but that's just because that's me. Devour. Love it says one of the best coping skills I had to learn is I'm not going to be able to process everything in one day. Yo, me and you both, you and me both love it. This was a hard lesson for me. I want to get everything done right now. I'm capable. I'm super. I'm so fast. I can do this all right now, even though I want to. No, I take it slow. And I bet you taking it slow has um, been much more beneficial. It works better, doesn't it? It certainly does. McKenna says, "I didn't know you were recovering too." Yeah, I've been drinking and drugging since I want to say sophomore year of high school. But I mean, my real issue was with alcohol and crack cocaine. I guess cocaine itself is an issue for me. But I mean, like, part of me wants to say it wasn't an issue until I smoked it, but that's bull crap. Like, that's not true. Cocaine's a problem. In fact, I found myself pretty early on in my dust blowing career, um, not being able to say no, having no self control. And it wasn't like I had been doing blow for a while. Like the second time blow came out, like of somebody's pocket, I was doing it. You know what I mean? And that was the story with me and blow. Zero self control. In fact, if there was cocaine in front of me right now, it would make me so uncomfortable. I would have to leave the room. I would have to leave my house. Obviously, there's not cocaine in here. There never is going to be cocaine in here, right? But I'm just saying, as an example, very triggering. I don't trust myself. I don't know. I don't understand that phenomenon of not being able to say no. It doesn't make sense to me. It exists. I've experienced it. It's making me a little emotional thinking about it. But yeah, no, no, no. Bad stuff for Michael. And I am a year and 11 months sober. On the 24th of February. Wait, no, a year and 10 months. I think I was getting ahead of myself last month because February 24th will be 2 years. So at the end of this month, I'll have 11 months. No sweat, McKenna. It's all good. I forget people's names in person that I like hang out with all the time. So I totally get the name thing. I knew you were talking to me, and I knew you meant it with love. So no sweat. It's all good. I hear that, Jeremy. 100%. Anytime there's talk of partying or doing drugs, I got to dip out because I'll be the part of the problem before I know it. And maybe some people can do it, but it's not me, man. And I'm very grateful that I know this about myself because I might, if not, I might still be out there asking questions. I might still be out there doing research. Which I don't want to be doing. I'm done with the research. I've done a ton of research. Research, aka drug use. Um, I will say, Jeremy, um, partying in sobriety is something that I do a lot. And let me define that, right? I'm not doing any substances or drugs or anything like that, but going out with my friends to an event and celebrating, like for example, for New Year's, it was like a warehouse party, but it was made by like artists. So the focus wasn't partying, it was like more celebrating, right? I think the word partying is definitely attached to substances a lot, right? And I mean for good reason. Often that's how we party, right? But there's something to be said about the energy of a celebration without substances, right? And this does require one to know yourself very well, right? If I was in that environment last year, I don't think it would have gone very well, right? That's why I moved here. That's why I don't live there anymore because I had to remove myself from those positions, right? But I've come to a place where if I come visit, I can go to one of these things with my friends, have a great time, and be sober the whole time, right? And what's funny is a lot of my friends are sober all the time. I was the one that was getting trashed. You know what I mean? I was the one that couldn't hang out sober. I was the one that couldn't live with myself sober. Um, Anyways, I digress. That was a lot of anecdotal information there. Thanks for listening. I love this. Kim says if you're on a diet, you can't hang out in the bakery. That's for sure. Half the battle is self-awareness. I agree. I agree. All right, all right, all right. Where's this information? We're resolving deep-seated issues such as trauma. All right, maintenance stage. So we had the transition stage, the stabilization stage, early, middle, and late recovery stages. The final stage is called maintenance, sustaining long term recovery and preventing relapse, right? So once we've developed some coping skills, we're building a sober lifestyle, we're repairing relationships, we're growing personally, right? We're resolving deep seated issues and trauma, right? Through all of these things, we can sustain long term recovery, right? And hopefully prevent relapse. And the way that we're going to prevent the relapse is not only through these methods, right? But we're also going to make a plan. But first, let's talk about some warning signs. What's going on, Sanitarium Radio? Good to see you. Good to see you. Mocked, hello, hello. Celebrating as a party, totally. I'm trying to separate the substances from the word party, right? Because you can party without substances. You can party sober. And I think that in our minds, when the word party is said, we think substances because of the paths we've walked, right? Because of the places we've been. So I just wanted to say, like, you can party sober. I'm not telling you to go to a warehouse party. I'm saying that you can get your sober friends together and you can have this celebratory energy, right? You can have the same benefits of a party without the detriment of substances, right? Alcohol is a depressant. You know what I mean? You'd think, like, I don't know. I feel like I could party on some hops tea. You know what I mean? It makes more sense to my brain because hops makes you a little giggly, kind of lifts you up a little bit. But again, I guess this is also a substance. There's some gray area in here, and I don't want to live in it. So I'm going to change the subject. And maybe that's not for everybody too. Grain of salt, folks. Just a guy. I'm just a guy with a computer. Relapse process. Wait, warning signs. Gorski identified specific warning signs that signal potential relapse. These include emotional distress. So this is anxiety, depression, feeling overwhelmed. I think the feeling of being overwhelmed is my big one. That one will crush me. If I feel like I get overwhelmed easily, maybe. I don't know. But when I do feel overwhelmed, it's the worst. It's absolutely the worst. I have to go recharge. Isolation, withdrawing from support systems and social connections, right? Well, if we don't have anyone to support us, we're just going to start free falling, right? If that's what's going on. Internal conflict, doubts about recovery, or unresolved personal issues. Another word for this is reservations. I'm glad that this is here. Now, again, these are warning signs, right? So if I'm having internal conflict, if my internal dialogue sounds like, maybe I could just have one, or that one time it went okay. If my internal dialogue is going back and forth, if I'm having doubts about the path that I'm walking, like maybe I don't have to be sober forever, right? That thought itself is a reservation. Unresolved personal issues. I wish it had examples for that because I'm not thinking of any currently, but I'm sure that there are plenty in my life. Unresolved personal issues. For example, if I was still heartbroken about Lucy, if I hadn't processed all of that personal, emotional stuff, I probably wouldn't be sober. It would be driving me back to the pipe for sure. Whatever's going on in our heart is very important. Our heart is a very important part of this body we've got here, you know? Um, so if there's something that's really pulling at your heart, it's probably important to address it. Otherwise, it's just going to pull harder. Millie the Dandelion. Hey, lovely. How are you? I hope everyone's having a kind day. All the love and robust, magical wishes and gangly armed hugs for everyone who needs them. I love this. Thanks. Thanks, Millie. Kim says, I think looking too far ahead makes it unbearable for many. 100%. This present moment is the only moment that we have power over, right? We can learn from the past and we can plan for the future, but we don't want to live in either of those places, right? We want to take kind of like look through the window into the past and look through the window into the future, but like stay right here, right? We don't want to go outside into those places until it's our time. I have this Kevin Gates song stuck in my head called Great Man. I've been using it to pump myself up before the show. Paula D. Pendley says, I started doing YouTube videos of my total breakdown to help work through my issues. I'm hoping it will be like a video journal of my recovery. I'd like to help others the way the lifeboat has helped me. Wow. That's so cool, Paula. Will you put up a link to your channel if you want to? I'm sure there's plenty here that would benefit from watching your series, from checking you out. And I'm sure there's plenty of people here that would love to just come over and show you love. Because we're a family. JCC says, I think a lot of people live like they're driving and looking out the rear window. I lived like this for a very long time, then wonder why they drove into a tree. We have to keep looking forward. And I was living with a lot of regrets for a long, long time, and it kept my focus in the rear view for sure, 100%. There was a lot of things that I wish I had done differently. There was a lot of things that I wasn't stoked about the way they went down. And initially, like when I was much younger, most of these things were not my actions. Most of these things were like things that were happening to me or happening around me. Right. So then, like, I had this mindset of like perpetually, what was I trying to say? Like perpetually looking behind me, like, man, I wish that hadn't happened. Like, man, if this hadn't happened, you know, and it kind of got me in a bad habit. It did not set me up for success. And I had to recognize this and change the way that I was thinking about things. And, the only way to change the way you think is to practice, right? Our brain gets in a habit of doing things, of going through processes. We have to like recognize this is not the thought process I want to be going through and like flip the script, right? And the more you do that, the more your brain understands, okay, wait, that isn't our go-to anymore. That's not serving us, right? We're retraining our brains. I digress. I think that's another episode. Dealing with heartbreak. Heartbreak. Heartache. Loss of daily structure is another warning sign of relapse. Neglecting routines and healthy habits. We all do this from time to time, but there's no time like the present to get back on the horse before we actually hit stage 3 of the relapse, the stages of relapse, right? Which is actual use. High risk situations. something we were just talking about, being in environments or with people that trigger substance use, right? So I think that party I went to on New Year's Eve is a perfect example of this. Now, in the context of warning signs, um, this is trying to say that that high risk, that environment that I put myself in is a sign of relapse. Now, I don't necessarily think that's the case because I wasn't feeling triggered. Not once all night did I feel triggered. Can you believe that? I have a hard time believing it myself. And I don't know if that's the difference. Maybe I shouldn't be in environments like that, but I have to say, when you're fire performing, those are the kind of people that want to watch. Ideally, I mean, not ideally, but anyways, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I don't think that I'm going to be changing the way that I'm living my life in that regard, unless there's a problem with it. Relapse process. So we know about this: emotional relapse, mental relapse, physical relapse, right? These are the three stages. The third stage being physical relapse when we actually use again. Just a brief refresher: emotional relapse, emotional triggers and poor self-care lead to vulnerability. Mental relapse, internal struggle between wanting to use and staying sober, right? This is a very generalized breakdown. Matrix Rabbit, what's going on? What's going on? All right, let's make a plan. There's two sections here we're going to get through, and then we'll make a plan. Or maybe we should do them at the same time. Hold on, let me look at it. Dealing with heartbreak. Heartbreak. When I look in the mirror, I see a great man. When I look in the mirror. So the Gorski synapse method model emphasizes creating a detailed plan to identify and manage relapse warning signs. Did you guys get that impression with all those warning signs we went through? Identifying personal triggers, right? Both internal and external. And the examples it gives for internal is like stress, external being certain places, people, stimulus. Lacey Silver, hello, hello. Developing coping strategies, learning healthy ways to manage stress, cravings, and emotions. Come on, what's going on? Building a support system, right? Maintaining strong connections with therapists, support groups, and sober friends. Lifestyle changes, adopting routines that promote physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. I think we're familiar with all this stuff. Oh, there's a ton more actually. I guess I'll just take my time then. McKenna says, my brother is a heroin addict. He has spent most of his life in prison. He comes out looking mint and goes back down the same old routes. It's heartbreaking. I've watched my dad do this almost a billion times. I guess it's more like 3, but it feels like a billion. But there is hope, McKenna. There is hope. I mean, my dad figured it out. The thing with addicts is you can show them the door, but they have to walk through it. Kind of like that conversation in the Matrix with Morpheus and Neo or whatever, or is it the Oracle? I can't remember. But if someone's not ready, they're not going to do it. You know what I mean? And what makes someone ready? That is up for debate. That is not conclusive, right? But I tell you what, when your brother is ready, it seems like he's got some loving family around him that's ready to help out. And I'm sorry that you're going through this, McKenna. I know it's heartbreaking. It sucks. Thank you, Lacey. Isn't it nice? We love Reese. Shout out to Reese. Good morning, Reese. You're wonderful. You're dazzling and tremendous. How about that? Okay, post-relapse intervention. What if we relapsed? If a relapse occurs, the focus shifts to minimizing harm and quickly returning to recovery, right? This includes analyzing the relapse. We definitely want to understand why this happened. And this is definitely the place where your journal comes in. understanding what went wrong and learning from it, right? Rebuilding trust. I imagine we have damaged some trust. It's much easier to damage trust than to build it, repair it. Repairing relationships and restoring commitment to recovery, right? And that's an internal thing. I'm committed to myself. Reintegrating into recovery programs, re-engage in therapy, 12-step meetings, other support systems, right? If you've been isolating and then you relapse, now's the time to reintegrate, right? Get back out there, hang out with your people, your sober folks, go to your support groups, talk to your therapist, whatever support you had in place, grab it again. Get back in the mood, in the mode. The strengths of the Gorski synapse model. Man, my mouth is not. Wonder what's going on. Comprehensive framework. It addresses not just the physical act of using substances, but also the underlying emotional and psychological dynamics, right? Emphasis on education. Clients and families are taught to recognize and respond to relapse warning signs. So I was right. This is totally a method for clinical people to help clients, right? Addicts. I'm not a clinical person, but I'm going to attempt to implement this with all of us. Or at least we're going to understand it and talk about it, right? But that is interesting. I guess that is a good thing that there's a model specifically for clinical folks, clinicians. I don't know, making words up, because those are the people that are actually going to be doing this work, right? If we're going to go see a therapist, if we're going to go see a counselor, I mean, I could say a bunch of words here that are clinical people, right? But I would prefer the person that I'm going to for clinical help to understand what I'm going through. And if they understand this method, I imagine that they have a much better understanding than without it. So that's cool. I'm happy about that. My faith in medically, my faith in medically solving addiction is not very high, right? I mean, we believe in medical assisted treatment, right? Harm reduction. I just mean that I think that our medical system doesn't understand addiction very well. But this does make me feel a little bit better about it. George Miller, hello, hello. Welcome in. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. If this is your first time on the lifeboat, we talk about harm reduction. We talk about doing better than we did yesterday. We talk about recovery. We've got a nice little community here. We do a lot of peer support, and all are welcome. Whatever path you're on, wherever you're at in your life, we're glad you're here. Oh, it's reality. I heard that you have a wonderful channel that I didn't know about. But anyways, I'm glad you're here. I'm gonna be popping up in your chat. I don't know if you do lives or videos, but I'm going to be on your channel here soon. I've been meaning to go check it out because I've been hearing amazing things about it. I'm surprised I haven't checked it out already. I tell you what, got too much stuff going on over here. Absolutely, absolutely. If anyone doesn't know, maybe I can find her channel real quick. Let's do it. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. There we go. Took me a second. I had to turn my memory banks to high power there. It worked. Oh, I got you. Don't even sweat it. I got you right here. All right. Yeah, go check out Krista Marie. Very, very much aligned with what we do here. Friend of the boat, a boater herself, and we love her. I imagine you go over there and check her stuff out. You're going to like it. You know what's funny? You say that. You say I'm fast. I never feel fast enough. My brain is like, and I just always feel a little bit behind the ball. And that's something that I do to myself that's not very productive. Something I'm working on. Good morning, Shannon. All right. What's going on here? Integration of other therapies is the fourth strength. Wait, I skipped structure, yet structured yet flexible. The Gorski synapse model can be tailored to suit the needs of different individuals. Well, I mean, I think that's great in recovery with addiction because everyone kind of has their own path. Everyone kind of has their own experience. I don't think the same thing works for everyone. I think we all kind of need a tailored method. So that's good. Integration of other therapies combines well with 12-step programs, cognitive behavioral therapy, and trauma-informed care. Now, whenever I read or hear that something integrates well with a 12-step program, and I mean, this is probably not the best thought association for me to have, but my first thought is they must not believe in medical assisted treatment. Now, I love the 12 steps. They have literally saved my life, given me a great foundation. But some of the things that they believe in, I think, are very, very, very counterproductive. And that's just one guy's opinion, right? And I'm not hating. Again, I love the 12 steps, but we believe in harm reduction and medical assisted treatment here, right? If you get a prescription from your doctor, like you need to be taking this, right? For example, Suboxone. According to the 12 steps, my dad's not sober. But I tell you what, he ain't robbing banks. He ain't, he ain't living an addict lifestyle. So whatever, right? You can call it what you want, but that is a miracle, right? So I don't like that about the 12 steps. That's my one complaint. So yeah, I think it's good that it integrates with the 12 steps, but I am thinking that medical assisted treatment's not within the Gorski synapse model. Applications used in various settings, including, you guessed it, residential treatment centers, outpatient programs, and individual counseling. Helpful for clients with co-occurring disorders. I don't think we've ever done a topic that was so centered or like so adjacent, so close to treatment centers and outpatient programs and stuff like that. Outpatient was the wrong word, but rehab is the word I'm looking for. I might do an episode on rehab. I don't know. I don't want to drive people away, but I have some very strong opinions about rehabilitation centers. Very strong opinions. That's way cool. That's hella cool, Krista. Krista says, me and your dad have been both on Suboxone for the same amount of time. It is a blessing. I can't believe it. I literally never thought I'd see the day that he was walking around sober, like living life and not doing crazy stuff. And literally all of those things are true and more. Like it's more than I could ever have wished for. I'm very blessed. We're very blessed, right? We all get to have the Admiral peak form. Hey, Adira, what's going on? Good to see you. Good morning. Juana, have you eaten today, slept last night, and what's the other thing? Have you gotten any sunshine or exercise recently? I'm not trying to be your dad or anything like that, but I find that when I feel this way, um, for the replay, Juana says, day 3 of mental freeze from trigger. I have promised myself I will not make any decisions until I can think clearly, existing and trying to just function. I know this place so well. I know this feeling so well. And I don't envy your position. But again, I find that when I'm in this position, when this is what's going on in my head, I'm missing something, right? I either didn't sleep well, I don't have the proper nutrients in my body, right? I didn't eat a full meal or something, I skipped one, or maybe I just, I need to get out and get a little bit of exercise or something. Maybe I just need the sunshine on my face for 15 minutes. And it's amazing what those 4 things will do. Maybe you're on top of it, but I thought of these things immediately because that's usually what puts me in that position. I hope that you figure it out, Juana. That's unfortunate. I'm sorry. And maybe you do these things very well, and if that's the case, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to, just trying to help. Love it. I love this. I love this. Love it. Learned a lot by 12 steps. For me, though, too rigid. works for many. It's all about what works for you. Absolutely. And James Collins says, we are all different. Rehab centers treat all addicts the same. Interesting. I I feel like I get caught up in money and like the heart, right? Like my heart wants all these addicts to be free of their shackles and live good lives. And rehab costs a lot of money. And I have a hard time seeing how those things connect. Now I understand that nothing in this world is free, right? But if I were to do an episode on rehabilitation, we would be breaking down um, money stuff because that's what bothers me about it. It shouldn't be astronomically expensive. It should be a labor of love. That's what I'm doing here. Like I'm here because I want to be, right? Not because like I'm getting crazy money or anything like that. Like I'm here because this is helping me and this makes me feel good, right? This is something that I can do. I think that recovery, addiction should all be a labor of love. I don't think that it should be paid for. Again, I know things cost money. Nothing's free, right? The people that go to school to learn how to do these things, they have to make a living doing these things. I just think that the money messes it all up, right? If you're doing something out of love, money doesn't matter. And I think that addiction needs love and connection to heal. So I just don't think that the rehab method is crispy. I don't think it's very crispy. I think it's Swiss cheese. I think there's a bunch of holes in it. And, little grain of salt, I went to rehab one time and it was the most bastardized experience of rehab I could possibly imagine. My mom's insurance paid for it for 2 weeks. So I went for 2 weeks. Okay, that was helpful. You know what I mean? I think it was more to get me out of the house, but that was my first experience with rehab. So it doesn't surprise me that this is how I feel. All right. We still need to make a relapse prevention plan. So I'm going to wrap this up so we can get to it. Criticisms and challenges of the Gorski synapse method. Time intensive. This model requires ongoing commitment and effort from both clients and practitioners. I don't think that's a big deal. I know that I'm going to be on this path forever, right? I know that this is a marathon and not a race. So that's fine. Ongoing commitment. Complexity. For some clients, especially those in early recovery, the detailed nature of the model may feel overwhelming. And I have to say, when I was initially learning about this, it was overwhelming. I hope that I have worded it and explained it in a way that's not so overwhelming, y'all. I think that I have, but I have to say, man, it took me a sec to really break it down for myself. And also, the third criticism slash challenge is requires professional guidance. So this is claiming that effective implementation of the Gorski synapse model often depends on skilled therapists who can guide clients through the process. Now, before I read that last bit, I can see why it would be thought to require professional guidance. It is pretty complicated, right? Not only are we one, two, three, four, five. Not only do we have like 6 stages of this thing, we've got 3 factors, right? Which is all good. These are all things that are affecting, but there's a lot. It's a lot going on. And honestly, I feel like we could break it down and make it simpler so that it's not so complicated. But that's the clinical method, right? Make it complicated. Anyways, I digress. Conclusion. I don't care about that. Okay, let's do this. Give me just a minute. So again, we just talked about how complicated this is. We're going to attempt to make a relapse prevention plan using this method right now. This looked simpler when I initially looked at it. Give me just a minute. Was it a different? When creating a relapse prevention plan, you should incorporate all the stages of relapse as well as identifying potential triggers that could incite a relapse. This planning is best done with someone who struggles with substance abuse, as well as family members and close friends who will be supporting the individual as they recover. Interesting. Firstly, the team should assess any history with drugs or alcohol. Little caveat, I am not a therapist. I'm not a licensed anything. I'm just a guy with a computer and a story. But we're gonna pretend for a second. Firstly, the team should assess any history with drugs or alcohol and determine potential risk factors and triggers at each of the stages of relapse. Okay, that gives us a starting point. Yay! Okay, so we've got these stages of relapse, right? We've got, what are they? What comes first, emotional or mental? I should know this. Emotional, duh. Obviously, I haven't done that one recently enough. So we've got, oh, maybe I should do this. We've got emotional, we've got mental, and we've got physical. Relapse. Okay. It says identify. Assess any history with drugs or alcohol and determine potential risk factors and triggers at each of the stages. Okay, so in the emotional stage, I'm feeling anxiety, depression, feeling overwhelmed, and I'm not addressing it, right? Maybe I'm not eating good. Maybe I'm not sleeping well. So at this stage, let's go with, so it's interesting. I can, fitting risk factors and triggers into each stage of relapse is kind of stupid in my opinion. It's kind of, that's more than we need to do, but we're gonna do it. So potential risk factors here are like if I'm not feeling good, I may, like if I'm feeling anxiety, depression, or feelings of being overwhelmed, I'm gonna most likely, it would be very risky for me to go to that New Year's Eve party, right? Any sort of celebratory environment, right? I can't be, no parties, right? I can't be doing any of that. I definitely like a party or a celebration would be a trigger, right? If I'm feeling not balanced, any sort of altercation, I'm going to not do very well at. I might take your head off. And that's something I know about myself. And I don't mean physically. It's been a very, very long time since I've gotten a physical altercation. Usually I will just spit venom. And it's not my proudest thing. But I have to say, in the emotional stage, these are my two biggest risk factors for sure. Celebrating and having conflict, altercations. And again, my history, it says identify history for all stages. The history is the same for all stages. I don't know why it says that. That's kind of dumb. History, alcohol, cocaine, pretty much everything. But these were my main gigs. If I got a little alcohol in me, whatever's on the table is what I'm down to do. I'd like to do what you have so that I can do what I have later by myself. And that's how I got down. Now, mental. Again, the mental relapse is when we start internally struggling, right? Maybe we're having past use association. We all know what that is, right? something happens, some stimulus, somebody says something, I walk into a room and I think about a time. It reminds me of a time when I was using. Past use association. This is a warning sign. I will totally get back into the chat after this. If I move back and forth, I'll never finish this part, so I'm just going to get through it. I was just talking about mental relapse, internal struggle, internal struggle between wanting to use and staying sober. Makes a lot of sense. So in this stage, again, celebration, right? I will not be going to anywhere that serves alcohol if I'm in this stage. Like a concert probably can't happen, unfortunately. One of my favorite things to do, probably can't do it. If they're selling beer, I can't go, you know? If I'm in the mental stage of relapse, it's not happening because it's such a big trigger. Maybe that's enough. I wonder what else would be a good one. I think that's plenty for now. We could do more. If you make one of these for yourself, I encourage you to use more than one example. But for the purposes of time, we're just going to keep going. I don't want to cut into my dad's time, which I already am. Physical. But this is important. He loves it. He knows. Obviously, physical is the act of using substances again. So in this stage, a trigger or a risk factor would be isolating, right? If I'm alone, I'm not getting help. If I'm not telling anybody what's going on, I'm not getting help, right? And my environment is very, very important. I know that kind of goes with isolation in a way, but depending on what my environment is, it could be very triggering or very, very securing. Like it could make me feel very safe and like untriggered, or it could just drive me off the deep end, right? So that's the first bit. The next bit, it wants us to determine relapse signs. Once our history has been assessed, right? So this is supposed to be my history. It's important to determine an individual sign of relapse because this can differ from one person to the next. It's important to have open and honest conversations to develop an effective plan. So I'm going to go over here, I guess. I wish I could make this bigger. Can I not? Okay, starting new. So what was I just doing? So in my history, in my experience, signs of relapse for me are usually resting on my laurels, right? I'll get about right here, about 2 years down the line. I've never made it this far. In fact, I think I've now been sober longer than I ever have, maybe by a couple days. I'm losing my place again, guys. My brain struggles after an hour. I forgot everything that was in my head. Individual sign of relapse. So resting on my laurels. This means being complacent, right? So like once maybe I get 2 years down the line, I start to feel like I've got this. I start to feel like it's fine, right? The pain of addiction is far enough removed that it's not visceral anymore, right? When I have those thoughts, I don't feel it in my bones, right? It's just a memory now, that's okay. I don't want to hurt from thoughts, but at the same time, like I cannot forget the impact that this path has had on me, right? I can't forget how bad it got, how dark and deep I went. You know what I mean? So resting on my laurels is definitely a sign of relapse. If I'm getting complacent, right? These are both the same exact thing, but it's an easier word to understand. It says also, because this can differ from one person to the next, right? This might not be your thing. It's important to have open and honest conversations to develop an effective plan, right? So if I'm making this plan, I'm most likely making it with my dad or my therapist or my doctor, right? And I want to be honest with this person. about maybe the last time I rested on my laurels and relapsed, right? How exactly I become complacent, right? How did that go down? I want to be honest with them so that they understand and we can understand together. We're on the same page. Now, the third step it says is establish the actions to take to avoid using, right? Once triggers and signs of relapse and addiction have been established, the team, aka me and my dad, if it was me, should work together to create a plan that will help the individual avoid using, right? So this might entail, let's go over here. For me, this is going to involve like physical exercise. No matter what part of the relapse stages I'm in, no matter what I'm doing, no matter if I'm succeeding or failing, physical exercise is going to stimulate the part of my brain that is the most damaged from my drug use. Dudu Baxter says, I've gone to so many rehabs, treatment centers, sober livings, and in the end, it was just, do I want to die or not? And I have to say, dude, this is what it came down to for me. This is what it came down to for me. Um, it became painfully obvious that if I kept smoking crack, I was going to die. And I didn't want that. I have a long life to live. I'm a young man, so I woke up from a 4-day bender and called my dad and told him what was happening. So, and this goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Thank you for saying this, Dudu. Thank you very much. I can show you the door, but you have to walk through it, right? I love that movie so much. I'm going to keep quoting it, but it's true, right? If you're not ready, you're not ready. The only person that can get you sober is you. Nobody can save you. You have to save yourself. And in order to do so, it has to become the most important thing, right? Which is kind of an ethereal, like, how do I make that important to myself? I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. But I mean, making it black and white sure made it easier for me, right? It's like death, sobriety. I guess I choose sobriety. That definitely made it easier for me. Um, but yeah, dude, I'm glad that you came to that conclusion as well. So I tell you what, dying is for the birds. Am I missing something here? What's going on, Kristen? Lisa Canty says, problem is you don't know what the triggers are until they are triggered. Sucks. Well, the cool thing is once you're triggered by it once, trigger me once. What is the thing? Fool me once. The George Bush thing. Anyways, you should be able to remember what triggered you last time, right? That should only get you once. I mean, that's kind of a silly thing to say. I've been got many times. In fact, I have to learn the same lesson over and over and over. So don't feel bad if you're making the same mistake over and over. You're just like me. But part of how I learn is by making the mistakes, right? So when I become triggered, I try and take note of that. Like, okay, this is not good for Michael. We have to watch out for this in the future, right? So there is that. Falling down is a teacher, a very good teacher. I am looking for something in particular in the chat. Welcome, Kimberly. Good to see you. I'm going to read all your stuff now. I am so hungry. I came from Reese's channel, and this is my first comment here. I was born in LA, but lived in Japan since I was 7. I understand the culture is different. However, my little brother seems to have an addiction. There has been 2 times finding you know, finding bad things in his car during the past year, and he has been truly unstable. A lot of things have happened. So does he live out in Japan with you? Do y'all both live in Japan? And do you guys have other family members, or is it just y'all? Um, the environment, the circumstances are going to play a great role in what we would do, right? Because everyone's different. Everyone has a unique journey and whatnot, right? Like, for example, what works for me may not work for him. And at the end of the day, whatever is going to work for him has to like be by his own hands, right? He has to want it. So that's the trickiest part of addiction and recovery is getting the person, or I mean, you can't get the person to do it, right? But like the person coming to the conclusion that, all right, this is what I need. I've chosen to put a little distance between us for now, but since our parents are gone now, he's the only family I have besides my children. Okay, this answers my question. He has put a lot on our family. However, I do truly have love for him. My question is, what can I do for him as a sister? Okay, now I'm going to go all the way to the bottom so that we can communicate about this. It's only me and my brother now on our family. Do you mind if I ask what the bad things are? The substance itself, what the problem is also an important factor, right? Like I probably will give a different suggestion for a heroin addict than for a crack cocaine addict, right? Very different substances. Um, I definitely would give a different, I would handle benzodiazepines different than alcohol, even though they're very similar, right? I wouldn't doubt yourself either, Kimberly. Um, I don't think you are, but I just want to say that I was thinking about it. You know your family, you know in your heart what's going on, right? And if stuff ain't right, you know what I mean. So I wouldn't question yourself. I would just, try to find a way to move forward. He's had the white stuff in his car. Well, I tell you what, the white stuff's bad. Well, the thing with that particular substance is it's short lived and it rings all the right bells. So it really is one of those substances that can really get you in its death grip clutches. For me, again, the only thing that really brought me to the light was realizing that I was going to die. Do you guys talk? Do you guys have open communication? Obviously, I imagine he's not talking to you about his use, right? But at the same time, as long as he feels comfortable talking to you and he's not estranged, you can affect his life, right? That we don't really subscribe to the whole tough love thing out here, right? I'm not going to kick someone out of my house, right, when they need love. Like, obviously, I need to protect myself and whatnot. But, like, for example, if I was a father and my son was using, if I kick him out of the house, what do you think that's going to do? Like, it's going to make it worse, right? Again, I can't save my son. I can't save him, but I can help. I can do something. So, anyways, I digress. Dudu says you have to surround yourself with sober people, even if they're not meeting goers. Here, I want to, before I forget, your initial question was, oh, not that one. And don't be sorry. This is exactly what this channel is for. That's exactly what we do here. So I'm super glad that you shared this with us. Where to go? Where to go? What can I do for him as a sister? I'm going to get rid of this relapse prevention plan for now. What can I do for him as a sister? Well, don't like estrange him, right? Like make sure that y'all have communication, right? Make sure that there is an avenue. He knows that you love him, and if he needs help, he can come to you, right? At the same time, don't enable, right? If he's asking you for money, like, don't do that. Like there's this and there's that. There's rent payments and there's buying the white stuff, right? And so just be careful. Try not to enable, but also like show him love. Don't give him the cold shoulder because then he won't feel like he can come back. Second thing, I think you just need to watch him. One day, hopefully one day, he decides he doesn't want to live like this anymore. And maybe, for example, when I envision myself trying to save my friends, which on this last trip I had a plan to do, but I did not get the opportunity. I think that my friend got cold feet because they know what I want to do. They know I want to save them. They know I want to talk about the gnarly stuff and pull them out of there. But I didn't get the opportunity. But anyways, what I was going to do was be like, hey, I know you don't want to live like this anymore. What can we do? Right? What's going on? I know you don't want to live like this anymore. What are you doing? Right? Ask them questions and whatnot. But again, if they're not ready, the conversation is going to go a certain way. So don't berate them, right? Don't be overwhelming or whatever, but just like make sure that they know how you feel, right? I love you and I know you don't want to live like this. And it, you know, it hurts me to see you struggling. So I guess that's not the simplest answer, but like don't estrange them. Keep communication so that and make sure that they know that you love them and that you're a safe place, right? So when they finally come to that conclusion they don't want to live like this, then you're there to help, right? Not much can be done until that decision is made in their head, right? So just position yourself to optimally jump on that opportunity when it comes. And I know that's the crappiest answer, but that's literally all we can do. You can't make someone ready, right? They have to make that decision. That's right. You have to protect your kids too. So it's 100%, right? So if I mean, I this that decision's a little above my pay grade, right? So because I don't have kids and my drug addict family's not living with me in that situation, right? So do what you got to do, but I think the most important part of that is like he knows that you're safe place. You're a safe place for him and that you love him, right? Now, if he's harming your family, right? If it's having a negative impact, that's a whole nother thing. But I think there's a way to protect the family and also like let him know, like, yo, when you're ready, I want to say I want to help you. You know what I mean? But I can't have this kind of crap going on around my kids, right? So not the simplest problem, not the simplest solution, right? But the key takeaways are there, right? Heart forward, love, protect your family, and like just watch for that opportunity. The window will open one day. I'm glad that you were able to speak out, Kimberly. I tell you what, isolating and keeping these feelings to ourselves hurts us. So you can always come here and talk to us. I hope that was helpful. I hope that let's get some ones up, guys. Let's put some ones in the chat for Kimberly's brother and her family. For those that are new here, when we put ones up, that's how we say love. That's how we say prayers, thoughts, whatever non-divisive language you'd like to insert there. That's the way that we show support and love for each other. Thank you, guys. You guys are the best. Okay, I've gone way longer than I should, and that's okay. It was an exciting episode. I had higher hopes for creating a relapse prevention plan, but I'm not a big fan of this method. It had some nice takeaways, very, very, very clinical. I think too clinical for me, honestly. I kind of go by feeling, I kind of just ride the wave of life, and this is definitely very detailed. The last part says, oh, we did that. Establish actions to take to avoid using, right? So if I pull my paint back up, we'll just finish this real quick. I'm so hungry. Oh my gosh. If I'm falling down, if I'm finding myself experiencing relapse signs, I want to double down. I want to get some physical exercise. I want to communicate to my dad, to my peers, to somebody, to my doctor. I want to let someone know what's going on. And now they're all bold and big. Okay. And I want to immediately pull the journal out, right? Journal and cross all my T's, dot all my I's. Oh, now it's down here. Can I? This program, man. There we go. Kind of. So when I say cross all my T's and dot all my I's, what that means is I need to make sure I'm doing all of the things, right? We know about nutrition. We know about sleep, right? And the importance of it, getting some sunshine, some exercise. All of these things are necessary for our bodies. And for our brains to function optimally, we need all of these things. So if I'm finding myself experiencing signs of relapse, any of these stages, one, two, three, emotional, mental, or physical, God forbid, I want to double down on my foundation, right? My tools, right? I want to make sure I'm getting everything that I need: sleep, sunshine, exercise, nutrition. I want to make sure that I'm journaling, right? Writing down what's going on in my head and my heart. And I want to tell someone about it, right? These things are going to bring me back to a center, a zero, right? Where I can affect my life optimally. And, we could do a lot more with this. We could go into much more detail, but I'm not going to, because, this is my relapse prevention plan, right? This is just an example. If you do this, it's going to be very personalized to you. So I don't want to waste my time confusing y'all, right? If this is something that you would like to do, I highly recommend it. Tomorrow, do I remember what the other one's called? Did I lose it? Did I delete it? Where'd it go? Tomorrow we're going to do the other relapse prevention method, the Marlatz model, relapse prevention. Marlatz model of relapse prevention is a relapse prevention plan that teaches individuals how to maintain changes in their behavior so that they can better cope with relapse. It discusses events that happen over time and breaks down the relapse process and treats relapse as an event and not a failure in treatment. Very excited to break that one down. It seems more up my avenue. So look forward to that tomorrow. Kimberly, thank you so much for your support. Please check in and let us know how things develop. I for one am invested. I'd like to know. And also thank you everyone for showing up today. For anyone new, for the crew, for the mods, all of you are the best. And I love every single one of you. Thanks for being a part of this change. It's a big deal to me. Shannon Trim, thank you so much. You guys' support is so humbling. I never expect to receive anything like that. And every time I do, it just is so cool. Alana says, Captain, your 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 thing has been fantastic. I love that. If you're ever feeling triggered, stop immediately and count 5 things. I forget the order of them. It's your senses, though. 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can smell, 2 things you can taste, and 1 thing you can, whatever sense I didn't say. But this will bring you back into the present moment, out of your head, and it will help the ants stop, right? If you're feeling triggered, you count these 4 things, which it's not lost on me that the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is taking environmental cues and noticing them. So you bring yourself into the present moment, out of the past, out of the future, out of your head, and into now. I love it. We stumbled across this together. I'm so glad it's working. Fun fact about the white powder, I'll close on this note. What it does to your brain is the exact same thing that video games do to your brain. Now, you could just say, well, they release endorphins. All drugs release endorphins. Well, there's more to it than that. And if you hook your brain up to a computer or whatever, like doctors can do these days, and then and one other person, one of you is doing cocaine and one of you is playing video games, the literally exact same signals are firing in your brain. It's not endorphins are here and endorphins are here. Literally the exact same chemical process is happening, which is not the case for all drugs. So, fun fact. Fun fact. It has helped me learn discipline with video games for sure, because it disgusts me thinking that I'm still engaging. The thought that I might still be engaging in the exact same chemical process that was killing me is disgusting to me. So I'm glad that I learned that. Anyways, hit that like, subscribe, and the bell for notifications if you like what we do here. It certainly makes a big difference. Again, thank you all for being here. And I guess 2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Look out for Calhoun's Corner. That's my other channel. Well, my channel, not my other channel. This is my dad's channel. And today we're going to continue crocheting. I'm pretty excited about that. So we'll see you then. And other than that, Relatable Reese is going to be on today. My dad, the Admiral, will be on the Lifeboat later today. Chase the Heat, Uncle Johnny will be on today. So give them all some love. Tell them I sent you. And have a great day, guys. Cindy G. So I will be doing my creative stuff at 2 p.m. Mountain Standard, so 4 p.m. Eastern time. And it's going to be, instead of the lifeboat, we're going to do it on Calhoun's Corner now. Yeah, because I think that's the right thing to do. Kimberly, this makes perfect sense. I'm still addicted to video games, except I'm learning discipline and I'm learning how to put them in their proper place, right? I don't play video games in the morning. I play video games after closing time, which is 5 p.m. for a regular job, right? So I don't touch any video games until after dinner. And that has taken me a very, very long time to implement. Very hard, very difficult, but I mean, it makes sense. It's the same exact thing happening in my head as the blow, right? So, um, discipline and patience are things that will serve me greater than anything else, I feel like. And I don't know if that's because, I don't know if that has anything to do with my choice of drug, but I imagine patience and discipline would serve your brother very well as well. Also, one of the hardest things for me to learn, but we're doing it. We're working on it. Alana says, Captain, hook me up with your email so I can send you a video of my horses, please. I would love it if you sent me a picture of your horses, videos, pictures, anything about the horses. TLB Calhoun at Gmail. Here we go. Typing it in. If you want to contact me, this is where you can do so. Yeah, Kevin, the 54321 was probably my favorite takeaway from everything we've done on here so far. And we've done a ton of episodes, but I mean, that one, I can't believe I've never heard that before earlier this year. Like, that one's amazing, isn't it? And it's just genius. It takes you out of your head and into the present moment. And it's just simple things that I can taste, touch, see, smell. Wonderful. All right, y'all. I'm out of here. My dad's probably like, grrr. Much love, everybody. We will see you later. This has been The Lifeboat with Captain Calhoun. Be good to yourself today. You deserve it, all right? Much love.